All right, so we're going to go through a bit of aircraft operations. There's not too much that's changed since last year. So just recently, the Deputy Chief Officer had put out what the fleet is for this year. We're actually one up on last year, but all the stuff that we've had in the past, over the past few years, is will be in their locations as I come on to contract. And I think the contracts might be brought forward a little bit. So once again, there's a fair bit to remember as crew leaders, as crew, as incident controls, that sort of stuff. So anything you order for your incident, and with aircraft, some of that comes as predetermined dispatch, is yours. You're responsible for. So whether that be plant, whether that be the trucks and the crew and the SCVs and the FOV and whatever else, but it also includes the aircraft. So you've got to look at things three-dimensionally. So the biggest thing for them is safety. They don't like lies very much. So it's a responsibility of the incident controller or whichever sector they're working in. So make them aware that not every time do they see some of these hazards. And if they have, great, you're just backing it up by letting them know. So things like power lines, towers and radio masts, smoke and visibility. So even the fire over at Buchan, they can't actually work on the front of the fire at the moment because of the smoke issues. And where ground crews are working, because it's not always obvious from above where the ground crews are, especially if they're in and around trees. Predetermined dispatch has been around for a few years now. We've seen some great benefits from it, so that's there again this year. And pretty much, I believe now the whole state is covered. So there's been some little blanking in of those spots that we'd missed in the past. So the ASU has extended the ovens machine into the Porpunka area and the Buffalo River area. But the top end has always been covered by Albury or Banambra. So the dispatch at the same time as fire trucks when they meet the trigger points. This sometimes results in the aircraft being there before the fire trucks. And that's a good thing, I think, at times. A, they can give you some intelligence, but B, they may actually pull the fire up for you while it's small. So what happens with that? The fire is in the dispatch footprint. That's the first thing that gets checked. This is all done through ESTA, all through Vic Fire Ballarat. If the fire is a Code 1, and a grass and scrub are undefined. So an undefined sort of goes in as a Code 1 grass and scrub. Firstly, if it's between 9 o'clock in the morning and 7 o'clock at night, the aircraft gets paged, and you will see that on your pager. It'll have the acronym Air Albury, Air Banambra, what it happens to be. All that means is that airbase has been paged for the aircraft. It doesn't mean it's launching. So just remember that. If the time on any other day is between 1000 and 1800, so between 10 in the morning and 6 at night, and the aircraft sees that the forest FDI is 12 or above, at that stage it will launch. As long as it's available, all right? It may already be at another fire, so don't think that it's guaranteed. Always listen out for it. So the Albury weather station is for the Albury footprint, the aircraft at Albury, the Wangaratta Air Station, AWS, the weather stations for Benalla and Mansfield footprints, and the Shepparton one for Shepparton. In the case of LALs, lightning activity levels, or thunderstorm activity levels, a PDD may be suspended because generally what happens, we have a multiple amount of fires, and we really then need to decide through the regional control team which is the most beneficial, or the fire with the most potential that we can send the aircraft to. So you may not get it if we have lightning storms come through. Some risks to the ground crews from dropping. So the aircraft at Albury, as long as it scoops its full amount, travels with 3 tonne of water, 3,000 litres of water. So 3 tonne at 180 kilometres an hour out of the bomber. So it's something that's going to hurt if you're standing underneath it. And they like to get in as close and as low to the ground as possible as well. And the bombers are very agile with that. But also remember the helicopters, anywhere from a few hundred litres through to 3,000 litres, 4,000 litres, 5,000 litres. If you're anywhere near one of the large air tankers, 17, 18, 20,000 litres. So a fair bit of water and or foam or retardant at the time. It will break branches off. It will make trees fall over and do things that it's not supposed to do. So keep clear of the drop zone. And for a ag tractor type bomber, it's normally about 100 metres wide by 300 metres long. Now the guys that we've got that normally fly the aircraft are pretty good. They're pretty accurate. They've had quite a few years, but occasionally, you've got to think of it, if they're not in the right spot at the right time, and they've actually got to fly the aircraft to save themselves, they will drop the water. So just be aware of that too, to be mindful when you hear it come in, mindful with the siren activating and being ready for it. So at each brigade you should now have, and if not in the trucks, stickers that look like this. And if you haven't got them, come and see the district because we've got ample of them. We'll get some out during the rollout as such. Alright, so they should look like that, and they'll give you a quick reckoner about operating and working with aircraft. Communications are a must. So with the plant happening, all the trucks happening, the aircraft coming, that sort of stuff, one of the things that you can do early off is start to get your communications plan in place. Start to allocate people to do this. And what the biggest thing we're finding now, by sending out the FCV and at Tankers 10 the FOV, some of this stuff can be done. So utilise those resources. We haven't sent them just so they can go out and make coffees for you. We'll send them so they can actually do this for you as well and assist. So clear communication channel, use it as a second go channel. Think of the sky bit as another sector, all right? Because if a second aircraft comes along, the air attack supervisor comes along, those sort of things, you can run it as a sector. And don't waffle with that. They will launch PDD on the incident management channel, all right? And we're going through a process at the moment to actually give all that information to the pilots so they know what default channels to go to. So all the comms plans will be going to them shortly. Just remember, if you don't get an answer from them, they may actually be busy. The first thing is flying whatever they're in. And then they've got aeronautical radios they've got to answer before they answer other ones, before they answer the CFA or the DELT radio, all right? So it can take some time. They are in the best position to do what they need to do. The biggest thing for them though is, don't leave it up to them, some clear objectives. Like I said, we've got some very experienced pilots around and they will give you some ideas. They belong to you as the incident controller though. You should come up with the objective. You should come up with working with the aircraft, no different to working with a tanker. So it could be as simple as following up on the flanks, breakaways, fingers, any asset protection, and helicopters are good for the asset protection, pinpoint accuracy. Head of the fire, the biggest thing, certainly in cropping land, if you try to hit the head of the fire, you may split it and end up having two heads. So work with them, but also have a good clear objective for what you want to achieve. Don't have them loiter, and certainly this year, as we've seen in the past years, a regional controller will actually start to pinch aircraft back. So they're about the only one that can say, you know what, I think you've had enough of that aircraft if it's just heli mopping. And if you think plant's expensive, we sign off many $1 million worth of aircraft every year. Not saying don't use them for what they're designed to do, all right? What to expect? So the bomber out of Albury or Benambra, usually around about 30 to 60 minutes flight time from the time they take off or the time they're paged. Now if it's nice and close to Albury, we've got the lake for the scooper to pick things up, and the turnaround time's great. I think this, the Tangam fire last year was about a 4 to 5 minute turnaround. So the lake was nice and close, and the aircraft was back over the top very quickly. Helitax, so Bendigo, Mansfield, Ovens, Shepparton, depending on where the fire is, 30 to 45 minutes. And they've got a number of different configurations, whether they're belly tanks, whether they're buckets, etc. And there's a Firebird at Benalla, so very quick, very agile little machine, helicopter. Fast turnaround. That's what some of them look like. On the bottom left-hand corner, most of you have probably seen over the past few years. And as you can see from there, there's a whole range of different aircraft that we utilise across Australia now. And most of them are under the national aviation fire stuff now, so they are shared between states. And if you remember last year, we actually didn't have too much in Victoria, but twice we had 15 aircraft sitting at Albury ready to go into New South Wales. So they're not they're national.
Hi there, I'm Luke Patterson, CFA's Aviation Officer working at headquarters in Burwood. This season we'll see a very similar aircraft fleet to last season, with aircraft located at the same air bases as last season, all on a 15-minute dispatch from time of call. Remember that your aircraft can only be dispatched via PDD, being predetermined dispatch, or via your RDO, being the roster duty officer. Ensure once an aircraft comes on scene to your incident that you establish a fireground channel with VicFire. This is so that you can communicate with the aircraft pilot or air attack supervisor to ensure that you are working in an area that you want aircraft to be working in and that it's safe for the aircraft to drop when needed. If you identify any hazards like single wire earth return lines, power lines, wires, or unauthorised RPAs, or commonly known as drones, in the airspace, please let your incident controller know so that we can remove those hazards or operations from the fireground. Remember that aircraft are not an infinite resource. They are not located every 15 minutes down the road like the next tanker. If you determine en route or on scene that you do not require an aircraft, please cancel the aircraft response through VicFire. Following on from this pre-season update, you'll see a link to a firebombing safety video. I encourage all your brigade members to watch this video to re-familiarise yourself with how to work with aircraft and safely with aircraft on the fireground. Thank you.